All right. Welcome to another episode of Something for the People. This is your boy B Hunt, aka the Silent Prophet, along with my co-host Big Country.
What's good, people?
Top notch. I'm gonna allow the guest to introduce yourself.
Hey, Amit Patel, what's up?
And as always, we got DJ back in the building, ready to go. This man behind the scenes. Y'all don't see him often, but he be here.
Yeah, I'm here in spirit most times.
That's what he be here.
Something like that.
Wow. Something like that.
Out of the way. Without further ado, we know why you're here. We're going to jump right into the topics. That being said, it is said the more money a couple the more money a couple spends on their wedding and engagement rings, the more likely they are to get divorced. And that's what the studies are revealing. And that's kind of trolls. I don't know. I feel like the reason why the connection exists is because if you spending all this money, the objective is I'm trying to impress you into marriage, as opposed to like I'm with you. So if you wanted to be with me, I should be able to do this with a piece of string or rubber band. Like I should just, because the ring is a symbol. The wedding itself should just be like, this is just to let everybody else know. But you know,
Yeah.
It's really funny because in Indian cultures, a wedding is considered like the most ostentatious event you could possibly have. You either go big or you go home. Yeah, and it's really funny because I've seen, I've been in obviously my own wedding and then, other people's weddings, whether they be of different faiths or not. And the same thing is true. You're absolutely right. It's almost about, sometimes it's all about the image, but ultimately, if you don't have that bond with your partner to kind of set limits for yourselves to say, okay, look, this is how much we're spending. We don't spend anything more than that because we've got a life after that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right. It's all about transparency. It's all about being honest about money and being truthful about it.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed and I've seen a lot of times, no matter where you go, it's like more people seem to be obsessed with the day instead of the forever part. Like, if we have a wedding, that wedding is only for one day. You go home, we go home as a couple. Everybody else goes back to where it goes. Some people spend thousands upon thousands. I've heard of people spending 40, 50 grand. Yeah. There's people that spend more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it just all depends. I'm like, for one day. And then the wedding ring, they say you're supposed to spend 3 times the amount of your monthly salary.
I've heard that same thing too. Yeah.
And I'm like, this ring right here it should symbolize I love you, but it's not the size of the ring, it's not the color of the ring, it's not the quality of the ring. It's the fact that the sentiment behind the ring is me and you forever.
Right.
That's it.
It's me and you against the world. Right. But a lot of people are like, well, I gotta have this huge ring to let everybody know.
This gets back to the image side of it. It's, let's call it what it is. Dallas Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. You got more $30,000 millionaires in Dallas Fort Worth than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah.
And it's all about, sometimes, especially, when it comes to weddings, it's about the image, the projection, the picture that they are creating for everybody else. Now, between close friends and family, I think that they understand that it's a special day and it should be celebrated that way, but within reason. Mm-hmm. There is a point of, I always call it like a point of no return.
Right. Yes, but to me, that craziness happens when you go into debt. Like there are people that will go into debt behind one day, behind one ring.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, but you have the rest of forever. I would rather go into debt behind my house that we are trying to live into forever. I don't even want to go into debt behind that. But I'd rather have a house that I could be like, we're necessity.
Here. Well, what are the 3 basic things? Roof over your head, food on the table, and the safe place to sleep. Mm-hmm. Right? Everything else is extra after that.
And that's the thing, but people forget about that.
Yeah, they do.
People forget, hey, I want you to love me. I want us to be able to eat. Hey, we gotta make sure we get these bills paid. Those are the basic necessities we need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening, now everybody's like, oh, well, I need this. If you don't show me your love by doing all this extra stuff. But then it's like.
But we got to also we have to be realistic. Because a lot of people say, if you don't show me, it's not necessarily the person you with. And that's what when you bring the world into your relationship. And everybody gets to say so. Because the primary reason why you want to buy the big ring, the guy don't necessarily care about the ring you put on your finger, but your friend does, right?
Right. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Your parents, in reality, if they wanted you to have an immaculately large wedding, they'll assist you with it. Right. But for the most part, you just doing that to show your family members that I'm successful in some way, or you want to be perceived as successful in some way.
And it's that perception.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't want you to have the truth. I want you to have the fairy tale.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a really good way of putting it as a fairy tale, because when you go into a marriage, you hope that your significant other, your partner, is very much on the same page with you financially. I mean, you brought up the original question. Why is it that, most of those couples that, spend ostentatiously at the beginning, divorce at the end? Reality bites. Yeah. It comes back. And that's where you really find out what the two of you are made of. And I think it's absolutely to your point. If you're going into that relationship without that transparency, that truthfulness about not just each other, but money,
right,
then you set yourself up for failure inevitably in the future.
That's very true. Like that debt, those issues, like if you don't have that kind of conversation, and I wish more people would be open and honest about those conversations. You don't tell people about that debt that you had from college, those credit cards you ran up, stuff like that.
But I want to ask why you think it's hard for us to have those conversations, though?
Because I think
I got one word: pride. It comes to a sense of pride. Each of us has our own ego. Okay. And some of those egos are bigger than others. Yeah. But it comes down to whether or not you can honestly, and I think you're absolutely right. Why is it that we don't discuss these things? It comes to pride and ego. It is the fact that we're scared to discuss these things because it makes us fallible. It makes us vulnerable. We have to put a side of ourselves on the table in front of somebody that we don't necessarily like to put out to everybody.
Yeah.
But that would be the big issue I have, because if I said I want to spend forever with you, I should be able to put anything on the table with you.
Yeah, you should. You should. Does it really work that way? No, it doesn't.
It's not how it don't play out there. Because
it's the fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale. It's like, do I think that I could put everything on the table with my wife? Yeah. Do I feel like I can put everything on the table with my wife, knowing that someone else is watching everything being put on the table? It's like there's secrets and things that I have that my wife knows that you don't know. Yeah, and that's just because she gets a high level of pillow talk. Like she gets all the pillow talk.
Yeah.
So she knows the insecurity. She knows all these things, right? Don't get it confused. There are things that you know about me that my wife don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just how it for a human being to, I feel like, to exist and be 100% with himself, he or she has to put up these walls and barriers. Like, my parents don't really know my full financial situation. My wife does. You don't necessarily know the ins and outs of how I'm raising my kids and how I converse with my wife, but she also don't know, hey, I might be saying something crazy out the water. You know, it's like
I think you hit it on the head.
Everybody I have these filters put in place, and that's just my security blanket, my protection.
Yeah.
Now, and I understand that everybody should have their security blanket, but when your security blanket starts messing with the house, the family things, that's when it's like an issue. I will never tell a person, just spread everything ever that you ever had out to somebody because you don't know how they may take it because they're not you.
Right.
Now, if whatever you're doing, like finance, is affecting your household, your family, I'm like, nah, that's not one of those, well, my security blanket. I don't care about your security blanket because what you're doing affects all of us.
And that's exactly what it comes down to. When it gets to the point where it affects somebody other than you, that's where you draw the line.
Yes.
That's when you got to put pride to the side.
Exactly.
But most people nowadays are so prideful. You'll give up your family. You'll give up. Some people give up their life behind pride.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like dumb people out here every day. You could have just walked away, but there's somebody's like, nah, I ain't gonna let this person do this. I try to tell a lot of young people, hey, forget your pride. Pride only hurts. It never helps. You should have pride in yourself as a person, but your pride being on the line versus your life, I'm like, you know what? I can leave that alone.
I can agree. I just feel like pride's like water. Too much water can be toxic.
Yes, it can.
You can kill yourself.
Yes.
Right. There's a certain level of pride that you should maintain.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Right. Because I'm proud of my family. I'm proud. I got pride in that. Like
Yeah.
the reason that I'm trying to give them the absolute best at all times is because this is what I want to show to the world. This is how we do. But when that pride gets to a point where I wish to embellish, I want to act like no. I gotta.
Yeah. But that gets back to what DJ was saying.
Right.
Okay. You got to learn at that point to put your pride aside.
Right.
Okay. That's where it's just, you have to be able to say, we're gone. We're at the point of no return. We're at that limit.
Right.
And that requires brutal honesty. But yeah, I think you have to be confident and have to have, going into a relationship or being in a relationship, to be able to say those things.
Right.
Yes.
You can't just acquiesce to everything.
Right.
There are certain things that I believe couples have where those things are non-negotiable. Okay, and it differs from couple to couple.
Yeah.
But the moment that you push one of those buttons that touches one of those non-negotiable things, that's where it's like, okay, hold on, time out. We need to talk.
We gotta talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to bring that person to the table because you don't want to put the kid gloves on, but the conversation has to be had.
You're right.
Very
true.
It's hard to be like, okay, I see where we're going wrong, but how do I bring this message across to you that this is not where we need to go?
Yeah.
We need to steer the ship right and go back down that lane.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't take information well. It's not.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not how you bring it to a person. It's what you say to get them there.
You are so true. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
It is. It's being non-threatening
Yeah.
over a difficult situation.
But that's the hard part. And I would say for a lot of people, it's like, of course, you should not be going at it in a aggressive, angry manner. You should be trying to go at it from understanding. But what if that person doesn't get that understanding that you're trying to give? That's where it gets to a point where it's like you start getting frustrated, and that frustration leads to more.
But that's part of the work.
DJ. You first.
That's part of the work. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know how they say there's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Yeah.
So that's when you got to dig in a little harder and be like, okay, how can I convey this message across? It's not coming across this way. I may need to find another avenue to bring that message across to get you to get there.
Yeah.
And you may have to nudge them in a way to where they find it on their own, because the way you might be trying to deliver them that message, they might be like, okay, it comes off a little bit like you trying to tell me how to get there.
Yes.
Let me just kind of nudge you there just a little bit, and you find the answer yourself.
It all comes down to how you communicate. Do you want to communicate on a very transparent and very truthful level, and sometimes brutal level, or DJ? I mean, you said it. Sometimes you got to find that back road to be able to kind of say, okay, I need to bring you to the table because this is important to me, and getting back to the original question about, why they divorce and stuff, maybe that's part of it, is that, if you're spending so much on the marriage right off the bat, and that's the kind of financial picture that you want to, present for the rest of your relationship.
Right.
Do you really want to use that same kind of picture to paint the rest of the future? You've got to do, I think it's DJ, you hit it on the head. You've got to be able to bring people to the table in a non-threatening manner. And it doesn't matter, and trust me, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, but just bring them to the table and just be able to discuss it. That's the hardest part of all, is just that first step. But it sets a precedence from there on out.
I definitely feel we leaned heavy on one side of the communication. Like, we lean heavy on how you tell the person.
Yeah.
I do believe there is some effort on the other side. That's where, hey, you got to be trying to receive what
Willing.
I'm saying.
That's exactly it.
That's a
Willing
big
to
key.
receive.
You gotta, because
absolutely.
I'm not gonna sit here and say I read every word in the dictionary, so I might not say this in the most pleasing. It might not be a lot of sugar on what I say, but understand that if I'm bringing you to the table and really trying to have that conversation with you, I'm doing this to keep us in the best position possible.
Exactly, and that's it. That's what ultimately. Isn't that what you're trying to do as a couple?
Right.
I mean, DJ, again, I'll keep saying this, but you said it really well. In order to bring somebody to the table, one person has to talk, but the other one has to listen. That's what's called conversation. You can't have one without the other.
Right.
You can't. So, yeah, it's work.
Right.
To your point. I mean, it is work. It is absolute work to do it. And we fumble and stumble our way through it every single day.
Yeah.
But, somehow there's that, if you are lucky enough to be with the one that you love, that person will understand that, you're trying.
Understood.
And that's a beginning to me.
I understand.
All right. We're going to leave it right there. We're going to jump to this next topic. How can you become more financially literate and able to invest in the future?
So, this is one of the main reasons I asked Mr. Patel here, because I'm not going to put all his business out there, but
yeah, thank God. Trust me,
I'm never that person. But
there are a lot of people better than me.
Honestly, I do look up to him in a lot of ways because
he's got low standards.
He is very financially capable. His intelligence is off the charts. He is somebody I look up to as one of my mentors, and I ask him and pick his brain a lot of times for different stuff.
I'm going to cry in a minute.
All right. Hey,
you got tissues.
We like to give people their flowers, man.
I mean, I'd rather give him his flowers while he here instead of that old school. Oh, after they pass on. He was so great. You didn't say nothing while I was here.
Yeah.
So
she was here.
What?
Oh, that was pretty well. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, Joe from Russia gives you a 10 on that one. Anyway,
for Mr. Patel, for somebody that's been in this game, been living this life for a while, what would be ideas that you would give somebody that is, well, we ain't gonna say starting, but someone that is trying to make it to those next levels?
So it was really interesting because, frankly, when I came out of college, I mean, I really didn't understand about money. Okay. And it was really just kind of just talking to, frankly, my brother, who is, an amazing individual in terms of not just as a person, but financially, he's got it up here. And he gave me some advice in the very beginning when, coming out. And it's something that I think, to your point, Jeremy, that you've talked about it a number of times. There needs to be some type of teaching in some form, whether it be at high school, maybe it's a college elective, of financial responsibility. And for me, it came to the point of understanding that, if you're coming out with just a good old basic checking account coming out of college or coming out of, your job or whatever, right? And if you're lucky enough to have a good paying job where, they've got a matching 401k or some type of investment program, we have to teach people today that that's not enough. You've got, just because it's there as free money, because it is, it's there as a way to, so that way you have a retirement fund, but you've got to be able to look at the money that you take home post-tax, okay, and be able to legitimately say, okay, where can I put this money, okay? Frankly, you look at checking accounts in general. I mean, we're talking 2 to 3%, and that's if we're lucky today. Okay. The example I like to give is when I got married and we had our first child. As soon as that child was born, we set up a college fund. Okay. Now, college funds can take different kinds of shapes and sizes and whatever, but ultimately, it's, what do you want to put the money in? Well, you want to make sure that there's as much money as possible for, little junior, whoever he or she may be, to have money so that way they can go. And this is where the difference between just putting it into a regular checking account versus putting it into an investment fund means a huge amount. I mean, you got 2 to 3% of a savings. So if you put as little, we'll let the numbers do the talking. If you put as little as $25 a month, for 20 years. Do the math. That's 25 times 12. That's what? $300. Okay. Times 20. That's maybe $6,000. Okay. Is $6,000 really going to get them that much? Maybe with 3%, monthly compounded interest? Not really. You're going to be sitting probably around $7,000 or $8,000. Okay. This is where, it's really, really important. For me, it was setting up a legitimate college fund, and there's one. It's called a 529B, and it's basically an investment fund that you dump money into every single month, and you can dump not just the monthly payment that you want to put into the fund, but take advantage of when friends and family give gifts to your kids. Split it right down the middle. Give them 50%. To the kids, so that way it's like, okay, yeah, go enjoy, grandpa gave you this. And you take that other 50%, you roll it into the 529. And you take advantage of those things of where friends and family give your kids small amounts of money, and over 18 to 20 years you're going to be a lot bigger than $8,000. Okay, so it's the math. It's just doing basic math that to me is that level of understanding. Now, the other side of it is, you were talking about financial responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Well, those of us that are here have probably been lucky enough to have a job as a teenager. And we're talking like not just a job where they're sitting in front of a laptop and doing work like, a digital app or some type of review or working on a website. We're talking like you work for 40 hours.
Yeah.
You get a paycheck at the end of that 40 hours, and you look at it and go, "Who's FICA?" Okay, Dad, I don't know who FICA is. You're going to learn about FICA. You're going to learn about that. What's this Social Security tax on my paycheck? It's that level of just understanding that there is accountability, there is culpability, that puts a value on a financial salary, whether it be hourly, whether it be a true salary. But there's culpability, okay? And there's that ownership of it. And for me, that's what taught me a lot about, as a kid when I was in high school, working, that really kind of cemented the fact of, okay, I have X amount of money at the end of a week. Here's how much I need to spend. Say for gas or whatever, to get there. But then there's money that's left over. What can I do with that money? What can I put that in? And it gets that picture gets magnified as you hopefully go on to college and then get an ability to have a degree or some type of continuing educational degree that allows you to earn more. Okay. The basic rule of an in case of emergency fund is basically 1.5 times what you earn in a month. If you're putting less than that into an in case of emergency fund, you need to restructure the way that you spend your money, because emergencies happen, things happen beyond what your paycheck will conventionally cover. You need to have
in your emergency fund, you should at least have 1.5 times.
1.5 times what you earn in a month, whether it be as an hourly or whether it's a salary. You should have at least 1.5 times that. Okay. Now I'm going to magnify it even further. Let's just say we were talking about couples. Say the couple wants to buy a house. Okay. How much money should you put down?
They say, isn't it 10% of the house?
It is. That's 10% minimum. Okay. You may be able to buy points to that. You really want to see if you can get as close to 20% as you possibly can. Okay. The way I think about it is like when you're buying a car, because for every, how do I describe this? So for every $1,000 that you put down on a car, you are lowering your monthly payment by $10. So it's really funny when you look at these commercials and you go like, oh, look, there's a, F-150 or there's a Silverado that I want to buy. And they tell you, yeah, it's for $350 a month. And then you look at how much that you're putting down. Like $5,900 to $6,700. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to put $6,000 to $7,000 down on a truck so I can get a monthly payment of like $400 to $500 a month?
That's why they put that asterisk on there.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, it's the truth. But it's simple things like that. So that when you're in the dealership and you're negotiating and you're trying to negotiate for $10 down, that really translates into you avoiding having to put down $1,000 as a down payment. Okay. So it's just like in mortgages, and there are tons and tons of financial people that are out there. But it's the same thing with a mortgage. Don't assume that the realtor is going to give you the best rate.
So what would you say would be I would say for adult, what would be the first thing they should start investing in? Would it be a house, or would it be just making sure you have your emergency money, or?
So, yeah, no, that's a great question, Jeremy. I mean, for me, and I can only speak to my experience because I think it is truly different. But for me, it was initially looking at how I can kind of knock out questions answers 1 and 2 that you described, like the ICE fund, and then investing. It's putting it into a basic investment fund or a money market fund. Your average rate of return on an investment fund is 10 to 12%. That's a hell of a lot better than any CD or any banking or any checking account that I could ever get. Okay. Now you can start those funds with as little as $500. Okay. So yeah, you were talking about the in case of emergency fund. Well, how about the in case of investment fund? Take a little bit of your money that you post-tax, not pre-tax, post-tax. Okay. Because, let's be realistic about it. Take post-tax money, put a little bit aside. Okay. And you do that for a couple of months. Now you take that money and say, okay, now I can approach a financial advisor, because let's be honest, that's why they're called financial advisors, and you're not. And you go in and say, hey, look, I want to start off an investment fund. Okay. Well, there's your money. There's your seed money that you start off with. Now, the thing with investment funds is the more money that you put in, the more dividend that you generate. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's, if you get to the point initially, you'll go like, wow, I got $20 this month. Well, look at the size of your fund. It's small. The more money that you put in, the more that they can shift things around as a financial advisor, selling the appropriate stock or portfolio, whatever. And that money starts to gradually increase. Now, what you can do is, if you do have a successful job and you've been there for a while, is you can arrange it with that the financial advising fund can actually withdraw money from your account on a monthly basis. So you never see it. And that's the other side, I think, of financial responsibility. How can you spend money that you never see? Right?
Yeah.
If you only see what's intangible in front of you, that's what you'll spend. But do yourself a favor. You're your number one fan. You're your number one advocate. Do yourself a favor and treat yourself that way. Put money aside so that way you never see it. So you move it from that paycheck, that you get, or you dump it into your bank, and then your bank sends that money to your financial investment. You never ever see it. It's just like dealing like a 401k, except it's a fund that's working for you. Now, you were talking about in case of emergency funds. This is the beauty of a money market fund or an investment fund, because part of it is usually cash and part of it is in stocks. So if you do need an emergency, they can liquidate stuff.
Okay.
So that way, say you've got like $1,000, expense that you need to make, and you don't have enough in your checking account or your regular savings account that you're paying bills and whatever. Okay. That's where you can approach the financial investment company and say, hey, I need to liquidate $1,000. Well, if they've got a certain portion of it in cash, then it's a straight transaction. It's like within 2 or 3 days, bang, you've got your money into your account. And you didn't have to touch your checking account, the one that you're paying the bills, the one that you're paying the water, the electricity, and so on. It's things like that I wish people would teach, that people would pass along to be able to say, hey, this is how you do it. When you're buying a house and people say, oh yeah, I've got a point. Well, what the heck does a point mean? Somebody needs to tell you that point is a percentage off your interest rate that you're paying for, so that way you're not paying, like right now, interest rates are like 8.5 to almost 9%. Okay. Yeah. For every point that you can pay for, you can drop a percentage point or a quarter of a percentage point or half a percentage point off that interest. Well, you do the math and you figure out what the impact is over 30 years. Yeah, that's a lot of money that you could put back in your pocket. Okay. But you've got to do all that homework up front in order to set yourself up for success in the future.
Okay.
So my question would then be, because you stated it, they ain't teaching this in schools.
Right.
They're not teaching. Where do you go to do the homework? Where do you go to study this?
No, this is great. And honestly, you'll be surprised. And this is why, again, I think I went ahead and set up, a little money market fund, for my kids. When I talked to my financial advisor, I told him flat out, I said, look, I don't know nearly as much about money as I should. And that's why I'm sitting in front of you. And I'm going to ask you some stupid questions. We were talking about pride a couple of minutes ago. Yeah, I checked it at the door.
Yeah.
Right? I just checked it at the door and said, look, I don't know what I need to know about money. Tell me what I need to do. And I'm lucky enough that I have an advisor who gives me homework. He tells me, he says, okay, if we're going to do this, here's what I need from you. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. When you've got all of that, you come back to me. And then we'll set it up and I'll explain what I'm going to do. So talking with somebody who understands money, just frankly, as a financial advisor, is a way for somebody to learn that. Jeremy's point. Surprisingly, I think there are some junior colleges that are out here that have like classes on financial responsibility. Okay. I've seen that, but you've got to dig, unfortunately, okay? And then it's, being honest and talking about money amongst ourselves, like with people, like us, that are hardworking, that earn a salary or earn some type of paycheck every bi-weekly. Oh. And we're going like, hey, what do I do with this? Word of mouth is everything, but you've got to be brutally honest about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to say, look at your expenses. You were saying about where to learn from it. Well, life kind of teaches you that really quickly.
Yeah.
When you don't have running water going into your house, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a reason why that the house is cold, because you haven't been able to pay the bills, or unfortunately life has hit you hard. And I can say I've met people and been around people where that has happened. And it's tough. It is ridiculously tough. And it's difficult to be able to get out of. So I think it's, again, we were talking about communication. I think you're right. It is being able to talk to people who know what they're doing and that have done it successfully. Doing your own research on it. Okay. For me, it was talking to a financial advisor because I was looking at the money that I was putting away and I'm going like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to talk to somebody who handles money on a regular basis. And again, that's knowing your limits. So I think it's those three things that how you can find ways to understand finance and just, the simple things. We're not talking about like taking an accounting class or taking a finance class or something like that. We're talking about rudimentary financial responsibility. I think that's what gets so much of us in trouble. And especially today where it's easy enough to have a digital wallet or a digital account where a transaction literally takes place in milliseconds. Whereas 10 to 15 years ago, there was a lag time between the time that you issued money out of your account to the time it actually got withdrawn and paid to the utility or whatever expense it was. And that's dangerous because it doesn't give us time to evaluate and really understand what are the consequences of making this transaction.
Okay, so a question I'm curious about, you would say 500 should be the minimum you're saving up to before you start trying to invest?
Yeah, and don't worry about how long it takes. Whether it's $25 a month, right, that you're putting aside, it's still money that you're putting aside for yourself. You need to be your strongest advocate because nobody else sure as hell won't.
And the reason I ask that is because I know there's a lot of people out there is like 500.
Right.
I still got bills I got to pay.
Exactly. And that's why you start small. I mean, this is where I decided, very early coming out of college, I would just take $25 a month and put it aside. And then once I did that enough and I saw that into my little, checking account, little sub savings account that may have been there. Once that money was there, I said, okay, now I've got this money. I'm going to be disciplined enough where I approach a financial institution or I talk to my brother, I talk to my father, about, hey, what's the best way that I can invest this money?
And you're saying money market account would be the best?
The money market fund is just the easiest way to get in because it usually has the smallest balance to start off with. And it's got a wide enough portfolio to where if there are certain stocks that in a given week that do well and others don't, the average balances out. And that's what's called dollar cost averaging. Okay. And that's the whole point behind an investment program, that hopefully the gains outweigh the losses at the end of the year. And usually if it's managed by somebody that's reputable or, a name brand, investment company, you're going to end up with, a decent amount of money at the end of the year. Okay.
Okay.
And you keep letting it ride.
So, I got to pick your brain.
That's
so,
all right.
My question is, I am with Navy Federal right now, and they have a money market account. And I'm looking at it, and they were asked me if I wanted to invest into it, but I didn't really know a lot about money market accounts. Would that be a good thing, or should you go? Would you go through your bank with a money market account, or would you say it should be a separate entity?
So I'm going to put it in this way. Think about like when you have surgery. Do you believe the doctor that tells you that you need the surgery, or do you go get a second opinion?
Well, sometimes you go get a second opinion depending on what it's about.
So, right. But most of the time you're going to get that second opinion. So do yourself a favor and approach somebody else independent of your bank and get their opinion. Information doesn't hurt. I'm a strong advocate of doing homework and doing research, because if you think about it, Navy Federal, for example, that's a sample size of one. Okay, you've got one opinion. So you're going to believe that one opinion 100% of the time.
No.
No, exactly. How many decisions can you say you truly believe 100% every single time based on one decision, on a sample size of one?
Very few.
Very few, exactly.
Very few.
So do yourself a favor, just like you do in your regular life where you evaluate things and making decisions, you do the same thing financially. So you approach, say, somebody like a Fidelity, someone like a Vanguard fund, or even like Charles Schwab or something. And you just be honest about it and say, I want to talk to somebody who's a financial advisor, and I'm considering about starting some type of investment fund. And just get the lay of the land. And you'll find out what you can do and what you can't do. And that's the thing, is that you've got to figure out, what is it that's reasonable? Because ultimately it's still roof over the head, food on the table, safe place to sleep for my family and me, right? It's being able to pay the bills at the end of the month and hopefully have a little bit extra to be able to say, okay, I can indulge a little bit,
True.
So you've got to weigh your situation. But I'm always for the fact of get as much information as you possibly can from different points of view.
Okay.
So that way you end up, just like you said, with Navy Federal, that would be one. But I would approach, 2 or 3 houses of financial investment and just say, hey, what else is available? Walk into like a Wells Fargo bank, someone totally different, and just say that I want to start an investment fund. If that, do you guys offer that? Which they probably do. But again, you get the information to make the best possible decision you can for your given situation.
Yeah.
Because my situation versus yours, Jeremy, is going to be totally different. But ultimately, the end goal for both of us is, hey, hopefully have a little bit of money so that way I've got my in case of emergency fund, and I've got something to where it's not touching my salary, where it's growing by itself and somebody's actually managing it and managing it well.
I think that's a great thing, and I really do thank you for it, because it's like a lot of times we hear people talk about what they could do and all that kind of stuff, but it's like nobody really breaks it down to you the way you need to hear it.
Yeah.
For you to try to make moves in the right direction.
Exactly. I mean, you see these investment guys that are on Wall Street and even right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, and they're successful at what they do. But frankly, when it comes down to it, are they like us that are having to pay monthly bills at the end of the year? No, their rate of return is based on how successful they are in terms of investing into the market, and then also making their clients' money grow. That's why they have those jobs. That's a pretty big burden to have. And they get paid accordingly for that. Okay? So, yeah, sometimes you have to take the responsibility of yourself, of being cognizant of, hey, that's what these guys are doing. They're earning thousands and thousands of dollars and whatever. But what is my situation? I need you to understand my situation. And if you run into an advisor that doesn't listen first and talk later, walk away. Because they're not listening to your situation. Remember, this is your money that they're investing. They're manipulating your money. Not their money, your money. So you want somebody that understands that level of importance. Whether it be a 4-figure portfolio to something that's, $10 to $20 million worth. Okay? You need to treat each equally. Okay? You need to be with somebody who treats each of those equally. All right? Because, ultimately, this is where, again, and it was funny, I was just reading this recently, but there's this young girl that was, she's 24, 25 years old, lucrative job, okay? But she took it upon herself to try and generate huge amounts of money quickly, okay? So she went ahead and tried a couple of, venture capital things, projects, investments on her own. She's now $40,000 in debt, despite the fact of having a lucrative job. There's a reason why they tell you crawl first before you run. Okay. Dealing with money is the exact same thing. Crawl first before you can run. Don't go looking into stuff that, somebody comes up to you and go, hey, if you give me 10 grand right now, we can make that grow. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have 10 grand. I'm not going to have 10 grand for quite some time. But this person's going to try and convince you to have that. That's a person that's not listening to you. Okay? You've got to find an advisor or somebody that understands money, that understands, again, your situation, whether it be a 4-figure portfolio, treats it as equally as the $10 to $20 million portfolio or client. Okay? So it's do yourself that justice. Do the homework behind it. Do the research behind it. Talk to people. Okay? It's patience. Crawl before you run.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of people fall flat on their face.
Yeah. And then they blame everybody else, and I'm going, no, that's on you.
You made that.
You had a choice. You had a choice to put that money in there. You had a choice to invest that money. It's on you. Be an informed advocate for yourself. Okay? And so, if everybody else is making money left and right and you're not there yet, that's fine. It's your money. You've got to decide how you want to do it. Okay? And you have to allow yourself to, a friend of mine actually said this, but he said, if you are going to invest, say into stocks individually, like you hear about these guys that do like Ameritrade and all that, if you're going to do that, you better have money to lose.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
Okay, and he's so right? I mean, you guys get it. Don't think that you can just magically learn the market and invest, okay? It takes time, it takes practice, it takes exposure to learn what the market is doing. If you've got the time to do it, more power to you. You can start off with penny stocks, where you may lose at most maybe a couple of hundred versus thousands of dollars, But for me, it's like, I don't understand money as well as that financial advisor does, and I need that level of security and level of insurance as well behind that, that backing should the money go away or something, in terms of the market really hits it. I need to have somebody who can manipulate that money. Okay. That's why I pay them.
So one last real quick question. Would you, do you believe in the whole acorns and all that other, like where they, you put a little money and they're supposed to invest your money inside. What was the other one?
Which one?
Was it Robin Hood? Like it was like a couple.
I remember Acorns had it where it take like the change off of what you spent and then you'll invest.
So those kinds of things are really good on the small side, like I was talking about with penny stocks. Okay, and certainly, the change that you created is just like putting money away that you've never ever seen. It's certainly a way to do it. Okay, is it going to generate the amount of money that you really need to get going? No, probably not. What it comes down to is that you've got to be disciplined enough to say, I'm putting X amount of money away every month, or X amount of money that's coming out of my salary, whether it be bi-weekly or weekly or whatever, I'm going to put that money aside and I'm not going to touch it. It's discipline. It comes down to it, right? So, we've created kind of these methods and ways to be able to kind of handle the money the way that we want so we don't have to think about it. No, we need to take the effort to think about it. We need to do that. We need to be, again, financially responsible to ourselves and to our families. And that means sometimes putting in the work and putting in the effort to do so.
I understand. How much time we got?
Oh, my bad, man. I was trying to get some.
Trust me. We all over here just sitting. Everybody over here quiet, I want to soak up the game.
I mean, I just was sitting there here just taking it in.
Because I already know what I'm going first. Financial advisor.
Trust me. I mean, I am not the oracle. Okay. I mean, there are so many people out there that are so much smarter with money than I have ever considered myself to be. It's just I've I've learned for me what works for my situation.
Right.
And, I'm trying to pass that along to my kids. And fortunately I have a wife that really, that we talk about things, I mean, really, really honestly and truthfully when it comes to money. I mean, it's like, if I talk to her about something and she tells me, no, we're not going to do it, I don't do it. I don't even argue. If both of us can't be on the same page, why do I think that one of us on the same page is just as good? Right?
That's a good question.
Right? I mean, it's so for me, it's like, no, if she tells me no, I'm going to listen to it. And no, because it's not right. If it ain't right for her, then it's not right for us.
Right.
I saved myself the anguish and pain of going, but what if? And, no, stop it. If it's not right for both of you, don't do it. But you've got to be truthful and honest about money. I think every family has some type of financial issue that comes up, whether it be on scale or not. It just depends on what family you're talking to. But, ultimately, I think you've got to be truthful about it and just be very brutal and honest about money. If for me, it's like if I'm thinking about putting money into, some type of investment or whatever, I talk about it with my wife. Because, and again, I'm going to play on the really kind of the dark side on this one, but, what if something happened to me? Right? Should I be the keeper of all the money? Should I be the keeper of all the financial knowledge for our family? Heck no.
Right.
Because then in that case, heaven forbid if something happened to me, she's got to take on that responsibility. So she should be informed. She should know what you're doing. She should know where the money is going. Right? Because ultimately, what does that mean? It means that our kids are going to be taken care of in the way that they're supposed to be taken care of. Okay? You have to look at it from that point of view of saying, what if you went there? What would happen? And honestly, that's the way I really have tried to think of things in probably the last decade or so, especially being older. How is my wife going to be set up, heaven forbid, if something happens to me? How are my kids going to be set up should something happen to me? I cannot be a force of one. And I think that's a big misnomer. Everybody says, oh, well, I need to handle this and I need to do this because I'm the man of the family. I'm like, no, you're a member of that family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So be responsible and be truthful about that. Put it out there and just be, put it on the table and just say, look, here's how I want to be able to handle things. What do you think? Just be truthful and honest about it. It saves so much pain and so much anguish.
For sure.
I love the way that you actually have talked about you want your children and you want to teach your children how to do these things so that they're capable. Even when you're long gone, they'll still be capable to do those things.
Absolutely,
and I think
right.
That's one of the great things that I wish everybody could do and everybody would seek is that knowledge to pass on generation to generation, because sometimes in certain cultures it's like you may learn something but you won't pass on what you learned.
Exactly.
So now it's like, oh well, I'm gonna hold that to myself. But when you pass on, it goes with you.
Jeremy, I mean, you said it really, really. I think there's this misnomer, and especially amongst men, of I'm the keeper of everything. I am the ultimate source. I am the ultimate decision maker. And I look at today and I'm like, no, you're not. Really? You think of yourself that highly? Right? It's to your point. We have a responsibility as husbands in the family to be able to pass on that knowledge to our kids, whether it be financial, personal, behavioral sometimes. But we do it in such a way that they become functional members of society. That's the ultimate goal. Okay? No offense, you don't want to raise a knucklehead.
True statement.
That's
not
100% true statement.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look, that's Mr. Patel. Oh, but his kid's a knucklehead. You know, really?
Such a good individual. I don't know about his child though.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Good tree, hate
Well,
the fruit.
what did you, you said it, right? I mean, what did you pass on to your kid? Well, I didn't pass on anything. Well, there's the result.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is a reason why knowledge and everything about it has to be passed on, so that way the subsequent generation after us can make it better.
Yeah.
There has to be a point of reference, whether it be, financial and whatever, right? There has to be that point of reference, and you've got to give those kids a baseline. If your baseline for your kid is go ahead and be a knucklehead, well, guess what gets passed on?
Knuckleheadism.
Right.
Knuckleheadism.
Ism.
But the ism.
Yeah, ism. Make sure the ism's there. I mean, but that's what I mean. Maybe Forrest Gump was right. Stupid is as stupid does.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stupidity out here now.
No kidding. And but as you know, I'm lucky enough that I have a wonderful wife who who really, in my mind, raised two beautiful kids. I have a responsibility to those two kids to make sure that they are functional members of society. I have that responsibility, because and I know this is going to be maybe a little bit esoteric and maybe a little bit sentimental, but they carry your name, your last name, for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your last name to be carried on into subsequent generations with that tag?
I don't think a lot of us think about that. Some of us do.
As I've gotten older, I think about that more and more and more. It's like, I want people, like, for example, easy way of looking at it. When people saw me as a little kid, they would always give my mom and dad praise, like, oh, you raised some fantastic children. Oh, they're very mannerable. Mm-hmm. They're all these things, because my parents instilled that in me one way or another. We can say beat, but I mean, whichever way it goes. I mean,
sometimes it was rough.
Yeah.
Hey,
but the idea is like, oh, I'm going to instill these values in you.
Yeah.
You're going to be that person you need to be. I still feel like I can do those things. It doesn't matter where I go. I could go here, I could go there. But my parents raised me to be this type of individual, and they stuck.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter where I go, I'm still that individual.
Yeah.
I always, because I've said it on the show before, I just feel like a lot of people forgot that the name should carry the weight.
Yep, exactly.
It's like,
exactly,
the man's gonna die. That's that's the design. But the name keeps going.
The name continues if you have children and you're lucky enough to have them.
Mm-hmm. Somebody should be like, hey, it's one of Hunter's kids. Like, no matter what took place, we know they're gonna be good. It should, when you hear my name, you should understand that, oh, what comes from that person is going to be good. Yeah. Because they got the name.
Yeah, there's almost like an understood level of credibility.
Yes.
To that last name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have some names that carry that kind of weight that have never disappeared. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got your Morgans, your Rockefellers, you got those, those types of names.
Yeah.
And I know I'm speaking from the financial sector of things, sure. But throughout time, some names just never disappeared, and there's a certain prestige or a certain thought process behind the names.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it does. Certain names carry certain clout. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it was earned.
Yeah,
it wasn't given.
Right.
But that's also why I'll say, like, just the way you raise your children should be a great way for your legacy to go on. Like, Mr. Patel has told me all the time, you don't have to call me Mr. Patel.
Yeah, don't, please.
And I'm like, but out of respect,
that's what I was going to do.
Man, I'm like, it's
hard to drop the Mr.
I mean, it's hard.
He's like, yes, I know his first name is Emmett, but I'm like, it's just hard for me not to call you Mr. Patel, because out of that respect for you, and you being the person you are, I have to. At least I ain't calling you the other one. I ain't gonna put it on here.
Thank
but,
you.
at least I'm not calling you the other one. Because he don't like me saying that no more. Okay.
That was a long time ago in a faraway galaxy. So,
But
Understood.
I thank you for that. So we're gonna go on to the next.
Oh well,
How much time?
wise, you said we was gonna reduce.
You know what?
and I'll take the hit for this one. I mean, because I just want to know about this money. I just need to know how to get it right. So
well, I barely scratched the surface.
understood.
No,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
How do they bring you back?
There's a lot
It's gonna
more.
have to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot more behind it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
As to what and how to manage my
It's just
finances.
crazy though, because if he's still learning, where am I at? It's like I don't think I even started.
I mean, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
That's it.
And that's true,
That's
but-
it.
You know?
That's it.
It's like I'm trying to soak up the
I'm trying
game
to get
here.
here.
But what I took from what he said is having conversations amongst each other like us. You know what I'm saying? That's how you start.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the fear of starting is the biggest hurdle of
Oh
them
my
all.
gosh! Yeah, everybody's always afraid of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
They always are. I mean, they fail. It's this failure to understand.
Yeah.
You said it. It's having the conversation to get it going. You said it really well. That's it. It's start the conversation. Be willing to have that conversation. And yeah, you may find out afterwards that you're going,
I'm not the
I
only
am
one.
behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, or you might found out I'm not the only one that feels like this.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so for us to have not to be afraid to have these conversations, because sometimes we look at other people and measure success.
Yeah.
Like he's up here and I'm here.
Yeah.
That's not the point of it. The point of it is to have the conversation, open up about it, be truthful about it, like you
Yes.
said.
Yes.
And okay, I may not understand X, Y, and Z about money, but now I get the first step to get there.
Yeah.
I understand it because I've had the conversation. I got out of my own comfort zone. I put my own pride to the side.
Yeah.
And ask that question.
I think you really described it very well. And the hardest thing, I think, for anybody when it comes to money is to not compare. It is the hardest thing to do because you're looking going, well, how come this person's got all of this money and whatever? And I'm like, no, that's them.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations to them for being able to earn that living and then being able to gain that money.
Mm-hmm.
Well done to them. Hats off. But that's not your situation. That was their situation. They made it better. To your point, being truthful, not comparing, being truthful about it, and just having that genuine conversation with people that you trust.
Yeah. Sure.
We're gonna skip this last topic. Because we always do, we gonna give the shout outs, but don't understand that we ain't gonna go into the final topic due to time and my inability to stop people from talking when they saying something. I should really work on this.
When it's good information, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, right. As we close out the show, we just want to give a shout out to.
As always, love to shout out my beautiful wife. Love you, baby. Check out her product lines: Yanni Like Mine, Traces Like Mine, and Wasted Desires. You can go wastedesires.com. They have ankles, bracelets, thigh chains, waist beads, all those things that make your body glitter and shine. Traces Like Mine, hair care products for a black woman, from a black woman for everybody, not just women, but men too. They always say they don't have a lot of things in the store for our hair. This is a woman doing it for you. And then also Yanni Like Mine. Ladies, if you don't know what your Yanni is, look it up. It does not clean itself. Check out Brittany Bossing Up. Shout out to her. She is a counselor, doing big things. She's making moves. She has, I think, 3 books out now. And she, at this time, should be in Atlanta doing a conference. She actually is a motivator, educator. She is helping young people be better and helping them strive to be better individuals in society.
Top notch. Well, you got anybody you want to speak to?
No, I'm good. I'm just thank you for this opportunity. I mean, I'd love to be able to do this again.
Most definitely.
Again, I love the fact that you guys have this open forum to be able to talk about things in the manner that you guys do. And it's refreshing to see. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, most definitely.
Anybody?
I ain't got nothing. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start it off. Tyler Bailey, Luxury Clothes by a Luxury Guy. He literally goes through the process of designing these things by hand, and then he goes through. We talking about even the most minute details. He's touching it. He sees it. He touches it. So if the price point's a little shaky for you, just understand that he got other things. Yeah, he got other stuff on there that you ain't got to get the top thing. You can. It's a lot in there. You got a lot. Okay, but that being said, also I want to shout out Derek Kelsey. He's assisted a lot of people. I remember, ain't it Spence?
Yes. Spencer Reese, if you don't know, he was at Oklahoma. He was their quarterback. Right now, I think he's trying to see if he's going to go into the draft for the NFL. Derek Kelsey, he is a personal trainer that helps out young athletes to be better, do better. He's helped a lot of athletes get scholarships, whether it was in volleyball, whether it was football, basketball. He actually does take that time to help them move to that next level.
Right. Top notch. So Derek Kelsey, and then finally I want to shout out my cousin Mike. He runs a podcast. Well, podcast-esque type situation. Right.
All right.
Cool beans. It's SOB, but it's not the way you think. It's not that. It's state of being, okay? And
I'm glad you clarified that.
I have to. I have to.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, you got that. Thank you. Did you?
Understood. So, but how he does it, if you don't like what he's saying today, listen tomorrow. I'm guarantee he gonna say something a lot that most likely you can tune to. Okay, cool beans. But without further ado, the primary people that I would like to shout out right now is, of course, let me click us, and that is something the number 4 DA people. You're on YouTube, go ahead, type in podcast. It's going to minimize those search results and bring us up a whole lot quicker. If you're on any podcasting platform whatsoever, you can find us. It's the exact same thing. And in fact, just so you know what it is, I'm going to say it one more time. That is something, the number 4 DA people podcast. If you're on YouTube, if you wish to leave us any type of rating, 5 stars is ideal. If you can't leave us 5 stars for any reason, please just keep that one and talk to us first. Talk to us.
Talk to them like.
Maybe we can fix that before you leave your rating system, okay? It's cool. I'm fine with that. Outside of that, this has been another episode of Something for the People.
Y'all be easy.
Cool.